Hello, and welcome to this US 275 Scientific Ethics lecture, where we're going to look a little bit today on kind of how the body works. And so basically kind of the science of the human body. And, animal bodies are similar, there's some differences associated with them. But, overall, if we have an understanding of the human body, this is going to give us good preparation for some of the topics that we're going to cover later on within the course. Now, a little bit of disclaimer up front. I'm a biologist. I teach the human physiology course. This is a topic that I could spend an entire year on. I'm abbreviating this, especially for non-majors within the course, and so we're simplifying it a little bit. But I just want to give you kind of an overall flavor about how the body is going to be organized and how the body is going to be working, because we're going to talk about some techniques, some scientific processes that are used to, repair the body when it's damaged or diseased or not functioning properly. And I think that it's important that you understand, in general, how the body is going to be working. And so if we take a look at this, the first part, we're going to take a look at body systems and go a little bit more detail in the second part of today's lecture. So if we take a look at it, we've got the human body, male and female, from the NASA Pioneer plaque from almost 40 years ago now. I remember when it was launched. So again, aging myself. So basically, if we take a look at the human body, there are going to be some differences between male and female, but overall, the majority of the structures are going to be very, very similar. And basically, except for some of the sex organs, really no differences within the body. A little bit, differences in size, but they're in the same location. They're going to have the same function. They're going to be working the same way. So if we look at the way the body is going to be organized, we're going to see that they're going to be kind of specialized regions within the body, specialized structures, which are going to be referred to as organs or organ systems, which are going to be important for doing various things for kind of maintaining your life, for allowing you to be healthy and allowing you to go about your daily lives in many cases without even having to think about what's going on within your body. And so we're going to have some systems that are specialized, some organ systems that are specialized for specific functions, and they're going to be very, very good at doing those functions, but they're not going to do everything that's required for life. And so because of that, each organ system is going to be integrated with other systems within the body to give you kind of an overall kind of functioning, complete, living organism that, makes up your human body. Okay, so we'll start out, and again, as a biologist, as a neurobiologist, and, start out with the nervous system. That's a good way to start. So what we've got here is just a simple sketch of the human body. Here, we've got the brain kind of up here within the skull. And the brain is going to be incredibly important because this is going to be the part of the body that gives you kind of, both conscious and subconscious kind of understanding about what's going on. So your ability to read and do mathematics and plan and do all kinds of things like that are going to be done within the higher regions of the brain, and then the lower regions of the brain and the brain stem are going to be involved with doing a lot of subconscious things. And so I could ask you, are you breathing right now? Breathing is very important for life, but you don't have to go constantly through your life saying breathe in, wait 2, 3, 4, breathe out. Okay, breathe in, breathe out. And the reason for that is that there's a region within the brain referred to as the brainstem, and again, keeping this at a very high level, that's able to kind of control what's going on with your body. It's going to control your breathing. It's going to control what's going on in your digestive system as your muscles are contracting to move the food materials kind of through your body. And that occurs without you having to think about it. Now the brain, again, sitting up here within the skull, needs to be connected. Again, keep in mind that when we're talking about these different organ systems, they're going to be integrated with other regions of the body. And so in this case, we've got the brain up here. It's going to be kind of connected to the spinal cord. And so basically coming out of the base of the brain up here, kind of going through a small hole at the back of your skull, and then going down the vertebral column. So it's bumpy backbone bones in your body. Those are the vertebrae, and they're going to be surrounding and protecting the spinal cord. And so the spinal cord kind of extending down from the brain, kind of all the way down your back here, is going to be important for doing a couple things. First off, it's going to be involved with relaying information. And so the brain makes a decision, wiggle your toes. It's going to send a nervous system signal down the spinal cord and ultimately out into what we're going to refer to as the peripheral nerves that are going to go down and go in and make connection with the muscles in your toe and cause them to contract and cause them to wiggle. And so we've got, information that's going to be going out to the body. We're also going to have information that's going to be coming from the body back towards the brain. And so, if you reach for that cup of coffee that, many of us start our day with, and it's a lot hotter than expected, you get this burning sensation on your fingers. You don't want to do tissue damage. You don't want to damage your fingers. And so that pain information is going to come up from your fingertips, kind of go up to the spinal cord and then be carried up the spinal cord into the brain. And so you can both, kind of subconsciously, kind of recognize the pain and consciously say, "Ow, that hurts." That's going to be like sensory information, sensations going to be going up to the brain and being used for kind of analyzing what's going on in the world. They're also going to be local reflexes. And so, if instead of picking up a hot cup of coffee, you put your hand on a hot burner on the stove, you don't want to have to wait for the signal to, it's quick, but it takes a little bit of time to get up to the brain. The brain says, that's not the best idea to have your hand on a very hot burner. You should probably pull it away. Let's send some messages down to the muscles, pull it away. That's a lot of time. But there are going to be some local reflexes that you do a painful stimulus on your fingers. There's going to be an automatic kind of withdrawal reflex that's going to pull your hand away and allow you to, get away from what was causing the damage. You go to the doctor's office and they hit you with the little hammer on the patellar tendon, the tendon within your knees. What they're doing is testing the local reflexes. So they're testing the connections out here with these peripheral nerves, as well as what's going on within the spinal cord, primarily within the spinal cord. So we've got the brain, we've got the spinal cord, and then we've got these peripheral nerves. And these are going to be nerves that are going to be going out into different regions of the body. So they're going to be going down and making connections with the muscles, wherever the muscles are. They're going to extend out into different sensory structures and carry that information kind of back and forth between out here kind of in the body region and the spinal cord and the brain, where the information is going to be carried and processed. The next system we're going to be looking at is going to be the muscular system. And so, these are muscles. They're going to be specialized cells. And we'll talk about cells in the next half of the lecture that are specialized for movement. They can contract. And so when you think about muscles, most people are going to be thinking about the skeletal muscles. Those are going to be the muscles really illustrated within this diagram over here from Vesalius in the 1500s. So these are going to be the muscles, the ab muscles, nice biceps here, different muscles there. And these are going to be the ones that, kind of see through, see the muscle form underneath the skin sometimes. And these are the ones that, you kind of contract and are going to allow you to move and lift things and do things like that. So that's the skeletal muscle. That's what the muscle that most people think about. There's also going to be cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle is going to be the heart muscle, which is going to be, kind of pumping in your chest. And it's going to be, pumping the blood throughout the body. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes. So that's a different type of muscle, but cardiac muscle. And then finally, we have smooth muscle. That's a muscle that most people outside of the sciences kind of forget about. But the smooth muscle is going to be very important because this is going to be involved with movement within body organs. And so you see smooth muscle, kind of lining your digestive tract. And as it's lining the digestive tract, it's going to give the digestive tract organs shape. It's going to control their size, but it's also, as they kind of rhythmically contract, they're going to allow for the movement of materials, from, the stomach all the way down through the intestines, ultimately till it's expelled from the body. We got the skeletal system, and so we've got our articulated human skeleton over here. These are basically the bones. These are, kind of forming kind of the rigid, like scaffold within the body. They're going to interact with the muscles, primarily the skeletal muscles that we talked about before. So the muscles are going to attach, across these bone structures. And so when the muscles contract, they're going to pull on them and almost like a lever system, cause the bones to move. And so, we've got some bones. We've got some bones primarily from movement, the arms and the legs. We're also going to have some bones for protection. So we've got a nice, strong skull bone kind of completely encapsulating the brain and keeping it protected. We've got the rib cage, good, strong bones, but, spaces between them so they can kind of expand when you're breathing and contract. The bones aren't doing it, but the bony structure of the rib cage is doing it, giving you some flexibility. You've got the bones of the vertebrae, the backbones over here that are, kind of connected together, so they're not completely loose, but you can still, kind of move around as you twist at the waist and twist your body or lean over. You've still got some flexibility there, but you've got that strong bony protection around your spinal cord. The circulatory system, which I promised you a couple minutes ago, we talk about. So we've got the heart sitting in here. This is, again, a good example of an organ system kind of integrating with other organ systems. So we've got the heart here pumping blood. It's going to pump the blood out through a series, if you want to think about it, almost like a series of pipes. So we're going to have arteries kind of leaving the heart, in most cases going out to the periphery. We're going to have capillaries where the actual exchange is going to be occurring, and then we're going to have veins, these bluish structures, which are going to drain the blood from that area or return it to the heart so it can be circulated again. The important thing about the circulatory system is it's going to be transporting a lot of materials through the body, and so it's going to be, carrying oxygen out to the muscles that are going to be needing it, carrying oxygen up to the brain that needs it. It's going to carry waste materials in the veins, kind of back towards the heart, and then circulate to the body where it can be eliminated. Either carbon dioxide waste will be expelled through the lungs. Metabolic waste will be expelled through the kidneys, which we'll talk about later on. But basically, we've got this whole system where we can move fluid material, blood, throughout the body. And carry things around. So the things that are, like the digestive system, bring in lots of nutrients, but we need to get those nutrients distributed all the way up to the brain, the tips of the fingers, the tips of the toes. It's going to be our circulatory system that does that. This is going to be important. We'll talk about this later on within the course, because if, we get damage to the heart, it's going to interfere with the ability of the heart to pump and therefore impede the ability to transport materials within the body. The respiratory system is going to be, closely integrated with the circulatory system. So we're going to have a lot of rich blood vessels kind of going in here so it can pick up oxygen. But the respiratory system is basically kind of the nasal and oral openings kind of going back into the trachea, kind of coming down into kind of the base of your thoracic cavity, your chest cavity, and then expanding out into these lungs on either side. So we're going to bring air in by breathing in. That's going to have oxygen-rich air that's going to be coming in. That oxygen is going to be picked up by the blood and then carried out and deliver oxygen to the body. Carbon dioxide, as a waste material, is going to be generated out in the body. It's going to become out. It's going to get into the capillaries within the lungs, and the carbon dioxide is going to get into the air spaces of the lungs. And so when you breathe out, you're going to be expelling the carbon dioxide waste. And so what you're going to be doing by breathing in, bring good air, oxygen-rich air in, and you breathe out, we're going to be blowing out the bad air, or basically air that has the carbon dioxide waste materials. And again, this is closely integrated with the circulatory system so that we can get the oxygen out to the cells that need it and carry the carbon dioxide, waste material that would build up, give you lactic acid, muscle soreness, things like that, carry that back to the lungs where it can be expelled from the body and get rid of the waste materials. The digestive system, again, is going to be a focused system of organs. You've got the mouth up here, you can't see it. You swallow the food, goes down into the esophagus, goes into the stomach, have a nice good meal. That stomach is going to kind of fill up and then slowly release those food particles as it's being digested into the small intestine. And so we're going to be breaking down food, whether we're chewing it up in the mouth, whether we've got, stomach enzymes and acids kind of churning and breaking it down, or more specialized enzymes within the small intestine. We're going to break down those food materials into nutrients that are small enough, normally biological molecules, which again, we'll talk about in the second half of today. So biological molecules, vitamins, minerals that we can kind of bring into the body. It's going to get into the circulatory system and be distributed throughout the body to the cells that need the nutrients and the vitamins and the minerals. The stuff that isn't digested and absorbed is going to go into the large intestine, which is referred to as the colon in this diagram. It's going to be processed into fecal matter, stored in the rectum, and then ultimately eliminated or expelled from the body as undigested materials. The urinary system, again, pretty localized when we take a look at it. We got kidneys on either side, but they're going to be connected to a very rich blood supply. We don't have the red and the blue here, but these are the arteries and the veins going in. Very rich blood supply going into the kidneys, a lot of blood going in, because basically the kidneys are going to be serving as a filter. They're going to filter out the waste materials from the blood and then basically kind of put them into the urinary bladder. And then the urinary bladder will be used to void the bladder and kind of expel the urine, expel the waste materials, metabolic waste, excess ions, things like that. And it's designed as a way that, it can conserve water in times when you're, potentially dehydrated or other things are going on. So you don't, get rid of all of the water within the body. You're able to reclaim it and basically recycle it so it can be used in the body some more. The endocrine system is a very diverse system. It's found kind of scattered throughout the body in a whole variety of different regions. We've got, some endocrine structures within the brain. We got the thyroid gland within the neck, the thymus within the chest region, the adrenal gland, adrenal atop of the renal or atop of the kidneys. We got the pancreas involved with making, enzymes as well as the hormones we're talking about. And then ultimately we've got the sex hormone, the sex organs, which produce the sex hormones. You've got testes in a male or the ovary in a female, which are involved with producing things like estrogen and testosterone. Other organs are going to be, other endocrine organs are going to be producing other hormones that are going to be controlling things. You've got the pancreas here, which will be involved with secreting hormones like insulin, which will be used to regulate sugar levels within your body. And we'll talk about, the need for insulin, what happens when insulin isn't being produced by the pancreas, and how we can, treat a patient with diabetes so that they're able to control their blood sugar. The thyroid gland up here in the neck is involved with secreting thyroid hormones, which control metabolism. And if you have, damage to the thyroid gland, too active or not active enough, it can interfere with an individual's metabolism and cause diseases. We got the reproductive system. We introduced it a little bit on the previous one when we talked about ovaries and testes, but the reproductive system is primarily, somewhat different between the male and the female. It's focused on producing the gametes that produce the sperm cells and the egg cells, but at least within the female reproductive system, it's a little bit more detailed, a little bit more elaborate in what it's going to be doing, because in addition to just producing the germ cells, the female reproductive system, the ovaries are producing the eggs, it also serves as a site for fertilization, as well as early fetal development if fertilization has occurred. And so the fetus develops within the uterus for an extended period of time, for 9 months, until basically the infant is ready to be born, having developed to a fairly late stage of very early development. But again, that's housed within the female reproductive system. And then finally, the systems that we're going to talk about today is going to be the immune system. The immune system is going to protect the body from infections and diseases. It does this in a variety of ways. You can do it with boundaries, and so you've got a nice resistant skin along the outside surface, so that things you're exposed to as you're going through your daily life, it's hard for them to get through the surface of the skin and potentially cause disease or damage to the body. We're going to have mucus in a variety of locations within the body. The best example of this is, if you've got seasonal allergies or things like that, you know what happens when your allergies are kicking in. You're breathing air in through your nose. It's producing lots of mucus. Mucus is basically that sticky snot that's produced by your nose, and it runs out your nose, runs down your throat. It's really, kind of awful if you've got seasonal allergies, but it's really good because, if you blow your nose when you've got that, you see all these little pollen grains and things like that that are in there causing your allergies. It's that sticky mucus, the snot in essence, that captures these particles and prevents them from getting in your body and or at least reduces the number of them that get into the body and causing a difficulty. There are going to be immune responses and inflammation. And so if you get a scrape on your arm or you get a cut, it is going to get kind of reddish and inflamed and hot. And that's part of the kind of non-specific immune response as it goes through and tries to prevent any possible bacteria or other pathogens, disease-causing materials from getting in and getting established within the body. And then finally, we've got some specialized organs that are involved with producing cells involved with the complete specialized immune response. And these are going to be cells that kind of go through and have the ability to recognize specific pathogens, recognize specific disease-causing cells or entities within your body. And again, these get a lot of attention right now because you can build up your immune response by kind of exposures to the pathogen. And so if you're exposed to kind of a weakened or killed version of the pathogen, you can still jumpstart your immune response without the risk of getting kind of deathly ill, like seriously ill, so that when you get exposed to, the full strength live pathogen, your body is already primed to respond to that. And so if you get a flu vaccine at the, in the October-ish region of the year, what you're getting is kind of a heat-killed or a weakened version of the flu, depending upon which vaccine you're getting. And that weakened version kind of triggers your immune response so that if you get exposed to the flu virus later on, you've got cells that are already starting in the process of mounting a response and fighting off the flu virus and the illness that comes along with it. And so that's kind of a relatively quick overview of how the body works, at least the different body organs and systems, many of which we're going to talk about later on with the course. In part 2, we're going to look at a little bit more detail about what makes up these organs and how they're going to be functioning. And so please come back for part 2. Thank you and have a great day.